You pass hundreds of them every day, on the street, on the train, in the background of a coffee shop. Faces you have never met. Strangers, by every definition of the word. And yet, something strange happens inside your brain when you see them. You form an opinion, instantly, and you trust it. That feeling, that quiet, automatic certainty about a person you have never spoken to, has a name. It has a mechanism. And when you understand it, you will never look at a stranger's face the same way again. This is the stranger's effect. Think about the last time you met someone and immediately felt like you could trust them. Or the last time you passed someone on the street and felt a flicker of unease you could not explain. You probably wrote it off as instinct, gut feeling, something ineffable. But your brain was not guessing. It was calculating, running a program so old, so deeply embedded that you have no conscious access to it at all. Here is the counterintuitive part. The faces you feel you know, the strangers you trust without reason, are not people you have assessed accurately. They are people your brain has recognized, and recognition is not the same as truth. Psychologist Alexander Todorov at Princeton University has spent 2 decades studying what happens in the human brain during the first fraction of a second after you see an unfamiliar face. His findings are unsettling. Within 100 milliseconds, a tenth of a second, before your conscious mind has even registered that you are looking at someone, your brain has already produced a judgment of that person's trustworthiness, competence, and dominance. 1/10 of a second. That is all it takes for your neural architecture to issue a verdict, and you will defend that verdict, even when you know it is irrational, even when you are told it is wrong. What is even stranger is what drives those snap judgments. It is not what you think. It is not the clothes someone is wearing. It is not their age or their posture in that moment. It is something far more primitive. It is the geometry of their face, certain facial structures, a wider jaw, a lower brow, a particular ratio between the eyes and the mouth, consistently trigger threat responses across cultures and across continents. Other arrangements of the same features consistently produce feelings of warmth, openness, and safety. Your brain is reading a map that was drawn for you long before you were born. Here is where it becomes genuinely strange. Your ancestors did not live in cities. They did not commute. They did not pass hundreds of strangers a day. For the vast majority of human evolutionary history, if you encountered a face you did not recognize, that face almost certainly belonged to someone from a different tribe. And in the world your ancestors inhabited, a stranger from a different tribe was not a neutral encounter. It was a potentially lethal one. So your brain developed a system, a rapid, unconscious threat detection engine that scanned unfamiliar faces for signals of aggression or submission, dominance or fear, alliance or danger. The system worked by comparison. Your brain had built up a model of the faces it knew well, the people in your group, your allies, your kin, and it evaluated every new face against that model. The closer a stranger's face mapped onto the familiar faces of people you trusted, the safer your brain decided that stranger was. That system is still running. Right now, in you. Psychologist Susan Fiske at Princeton built on this research with something called the Stereotype Content Model. Her work revealed that when your brain evaluates an unfamiliar person, it is asking 2 questions simultaneously and automatically. First, is this person a friend or an enemy? Second, is this person capable? The answers to those 2 questions, formed before conscious thought, shape every subsequent interaction you have with that individual. And those answers are driven almost entirely by facial cues that your brain interprets through the lens of everything it has already seen. That is the mechanism behind a feeling you have almost certainly had. You meet someone new, and they remind you of someone you used to know. The resemblance might be subtle, the way they hold their head, the shape of their eyes, but something fires, something connects, and suddenly you feel more comfortable, more at ease, more inclined to trust. You are not responding to the person in front of you. You are responding to someone your brain has retrieved from its archives and mapped onto this new face. The stranger is, in a profound neurological sense, not a stranger at all. Research by Radhika Bhatt at New York University confirmed this in a 2020 study where participants were shown images of people they had never met and asked to rate their trustworthiness. When the researchers subtly morphed those images to resemble the participants' close friends and family members, changes so small the participants could not consciously detect them, the trust ratings climbed significantly, automatically. The participants had no idea why they liked these strangers more, but their brains did. Now take that mechanism and place it in the modern world. You are scrolling through a social media profile. You see a face. Your brain runs its ancient program. The face maps cleanly onto familiar patterns, trust fires, and within moments, you are more likely to believe what that person says, more likely to share their content, more likely to feel a sense of connection to someone you have never met, will never meet, and know almost nothing about. Or consider something more consequential. Research published in the Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences found that the competence ratings extracted from faces in just 1 second of exposure predicted the outcomes of United States Senate elections. Not at a trivial level, at a statistically significant one. Voters were not consciously deciding who looked more competent. They were running the ancient program, the same program your ancestors used to decide who to follow and who to flee. This is the stranger's effect in action. The problem is not that your brain is broken. The problem is that your brain is brilliant at solving a problem that no longer exists. The calculations it runs in 1/10 of a second were genuinely life-saving for most of human history. In a small tribe of 50 to 150 people, reading a stranger's face accurately was a survival skill. The cost of trusting the wrong person was catastrophic. The cost of misjudging a potential ally was equally high. But your brain cannot update its priors in real time. It cannot switch off 100,000 years of evolutionary programming because the social environment changed in the last few centuries. So it does what it always did. It scans, it compares, it retrieves, it decides, and it hands you a feeling, a certainty, a comfort, an unease, and calls it intuition. There is something you can do with this knowledge. The next time you feel an immediate sense of trust towards someone you do not know, ask a question your ancestors never could. Who does this person remind me of? Not because that resemblance tells you anything true about the stranger in front of you, but because recognizing the mechanism is the only way to step outside it. The strangers you feel you know are mirrors. They are your brain's past projected onto someone else's present. And the strangers who unsettle you for no clear reason may be among the most interesting people you will ever meet, if you give your ancient program a moment to pause. Today, when the train pulls in and the doors open and the faces flood through, your brain will start its calculation. It has already started. It started the moment you saw the first face on this page. You cannot stop the program from running, but now you know it is running. And that knowledge, that sliver of conscious distance between the stimulus and the verdict, is something your ancestors never had. That is not nothing. In fact, it might be everything.